Good afternoon, sir. So, my topic for today it's all about item analysis and validation. So, first, let us read the learning outcomes. So, the learning outcomes explain the meaning of the item analysis, item validity, reliability, item difficulty, and discrimination index. And next, determine the validity and the reliability of given the test items. And next is determine the quality of a test item by its difficulty index, discrimination, and plausibility of option for selected response test. So now let's have an introduction. So the introduction, the teacher normally prepares a draft of the test such as a draft is a subject to item analysis and validation in order to ensure the final version of a test will be useful and functional. So first the teacher tries out the draft test of a group of students similar characteristic as the intended test takers. So try out pace. From the tryout group, each item will be analyzed in the terms of its ability to discriminate between those who know and those who don't know, and also its level of difficulty. Item analysis phase. So the item analysis will provide information that will allow the teacher to decide whether to revise or replace an item. So the final draft of the test is subjected to validation if the intent is to make use of the test standard test for the particular unit of grading period. So we shall be concerned with this concept in this chapter. So now, my title of my report it's all about item analysis and difficulty index and discriminate index 6.1 chapter 6. So there are the two important characteristics of an item that will be interest to the teacher. So first, these are the item difficulty. And next is discrimination index. So we shall learn how to measure this characteristic and apply our knowledge on making decision about the item question. So ano siya? So as a future teacher, so we create a question. So maghatag sa taog kinang difficult uh, question sa mga student. Okay, it's part of item test. So next, the difficulty of an item or item difficulty is defined as a number of a student who are able to answer the item correctly divided the total number of a student. So nga rin na, may bawaan na to ang item difficulty sa usa ka student nga gihatagan nimo og hatagan nimo og maghatag kag question sa ilaha, so matutal na nimo ang halimbawa 100% of a student, so ang nakakuha is 75% sa nakakuha og correctly answer and the lower is 25%. So mao na siya matutal sa teacher. So item difficulty number of a student with correct answer total number of student. Next, then the item difficulty is usually expressed in a percentage. So, di ba nakakita na to sa sample, like gihatag ni sir nga TOS, di ba na nga to ang percentage sa katong sa kanang mga percentage of correct percentage sa imong gihimuan og kinang question nga difficult and really difficult. So, mato siya. Example, what is the item difficult index of an item if 25 students are unable to answer it correctly, while 75 answer it correctly. So, mo na siya. Mo to ang sample kagay niya. So, that the hens, student hens is 100. So, mo na siya. Index item of a student unable to answer correctly. So, ang katong mga student nga wala gid kayo ka answer, nga mas taas pa ang kitong nakako og higher score. So, mo ni siya. 25 student ang kuan difficult. Nga ang correctly nakakuha sa kinang kuan sa total of 100% is 75. Next example, the total number of a student is 100, hence the item difficulty index is 75/100 or 75%. So mao to siya. Ang nakakuha ato sa 25% is ang difficulty nga nakakuha og score. Anya ang sa gitong 75% nakakuha to correctly answer. So mao na siya, ang total is 75/100. Another example, 25 students answered the item correctly while 75 students did not. The total number of a student is 100, so the difficult index is 25/100, which is 25%. So, gibali na sa niya ang situation. So, ang nakakuha na sa correctly is 75% and ang nakakuha og lower score is 25%. Ang sample niya sa first, gibali na sa niya sa second sample. Gibali niya ang number of total difficulty of items. Next, a high percentage indicates an easy item question while a lower percentage indicates a difficult item. So, mo ni siya, ang percentage naka-indicates gina siya per may sa easy items of question. So, mo ni siya, nga difficulty items mo to kagay gi-discuss na to na ako siyang kitong pagkuha sa kasi nakakuha og lower score, higher score na sa difficulty. So one problem with this type of difficulty index that it may not actually indicate that the item is difficult or essay. A student who does not know the subject matter will naturally unable to answer the correctly even the question is essay. How do we decide on the basis of this index whether the item is too difficult or too essay? So dapat the student who did not know, so ang student wala siya, I give a situation. So ang student gitagaan mo siya og question, so wala siya kahibaw, so di gito siya ka-answer. Pero ang student nga gitagaan nimo ato nga question, so kahibaw siya na siya sa pag-discuss nimo sa pag-discuss ninyo ana nga bagong lesson, so maka-answer to siya. Ang kitong student nga wala siya sa sa discussion, so di sa tigaan to nimo siya og kinang sayon nga question or difficulty, di gito siya ka-answer. So ara nimo ma-test ang sa ka-student kung may nakatunan or wala. Next, the following arbitrary rule is often used in the literature. So, mano siya ang the range of difficulty index. So, 0.25, 0.26, 0.75, or 0.76 above na siya. Interpretation difficulty, mano siya? Difficult, right difficult, or essay. And the action is revise or discard, retain or revise or discard. Maro na siya. Next, index of discrimination equals DU or DL, and the sign of U is upper group and the L is lower group. So example, obtain the index discrimination of an item of the upper is 25% and the class had difficulty index of 0.60. So total is 60% the upper. So upper 25% got correct the answer, while the lower 25% of the class has difficulty index of 0.20. So the DU or the total number na niya is 0.60 while the DL is 0.20. Thus the index discriminate is 60 minus 20 equals 40. Kaya ang 60 minus nimo siya sa 20 equals 40. So mo na siyang total. So, discrimination index is the difference between the proportion on the top scores who got the item correct and the proportion of the lowest scores who got the item right. So the discrimination index range between equals 1 and plus 1. The closer the discrimination index is 2 plus 1 is to 1 plus, the more effectively the item can be discriminate or distinguish between the two groups of a student. So mao gyapon to siya nga if maghatag na ka og kuan sa students, so based sa mga imong gihatag nga mga questions sa ilaha or test item, maghatag ato difficult. So some of the student ka nakakuha og lower score, the high score pila ka percent, so matotal to nimo siya. So mao ra gihapon matotal nimo siya ang results nakakuha og correct answer. Next, a negative discrimination index means more from the lower group got the item correctly. The last item is not good and so much be discarded. So theoretical, the index of discrimination can be ranged from equals 1.0. So when DU or equals 0 and DL equals 1 to equals 1, then this means that all the lower 25% of the student get the correct answer, while of the upper 25% get the wrong answer. So in a hint such as an index discrimination correctly between the two groups, but the item itself is highly questioned, while mao na siya mo question, why should be right ones get the wrong answer and the poor ones get the right answer? On the other hand, in index discrimination is 1.0. So then this means that all of lower 25% failed to get the correct answer, while all of the upper 25% get the correct answer. So mao to siya ang tubag question ani why should the writer net. So mao to siya ang akong mibasa ang answer. Next is the index range. So mao ni siya ang mga range number. Tanawan lang niyo sa kung PPT kay gisan. So mao ni siya 1.0 equals 50 and 55.0 equals 45 versus 1.0. So ang interpretation niya can be discriminate, but item is questionable. Non-discriminating, discriminating items, ang action niya ay discard, revise, and include. Next is example. Consider a multiple choice type of test of the following data were obtained. So mao ni siya item. So mao ni siya ang sample example. So A, B, C, so mao ni siya mga option na. The total mao ni siya ang upper and lower. Next is the correct response is B. So kung sample kagain na so mao ni siya ang next slides nga nagpakita. So the correct response is B. Let us complete the difficulty index and index of discrimination. So difficulty index number of a student getting the correct response total equals 40 over 100%. So equals 40% within the range of a good item. Next, the discrimination index and similarly be compute. So ato na compute na sa teacher. So DU number of the student in the upper is 25% with the correct response, and number of student in the upper is 25%. So magitungan na siya. So mo ni siya. Total na ni siya diri sa baba. So equals 15 over 20 equals 75 or 75%. So mao ni siya ang kuan. Pag total makita man siya diri. Next. So index difficulty. So mao ni siya mao gyapon. Pag total na ni siya sa kitong mga lower or kinang high kuha siya og correct response. So where are you the number in the upper group who answer the item correctly? So ang kining sign nga are you mo ni siya ang number in the upper group who answer item correctly. Then ang sign nga RL, the number in a lower group who answered the item correctly. So may mga sign man siya ang RU, RL, and T. Ang T, the total number who tried the item. So mo na siya ang sign. RU, RL, and T. And index item of discrimination power. Mo na siya. Total gihapon ni siya dire. Silbi ang kitong RL ug RU murag mo to siya ang sign number siya ba. So where percentage? So mao sa kagainan nato RU, RL, and T. So karon is PRT. P is percentage who are answered the item correctly or index of difficulty. R, the number who are answered the item correctly, and T, the total number mo. Gawin, pareha po siya. So, the smaller the percentage figure, the more difficult the item. So, estimate lang yapon nato the item of discriminating power using the formula below. So, pag total nato gamiton to nato siya nga formula nga agay na nga R, U, R, L, and T. So next, the discriminating power of an item is reported as a decimal fraction. Maximum discriminating power is indicated by index of 100. 1.00. Maximum discriminating is usually found at the 50% level of difficulty. So, ano siya? Ang 0.0 and 0.20 is very difficult na siya. Dito na kayo siya kwaon. Yung kining 0.21 or 0.80 is moderately difficult. So, ang 0.81 and 0.1 na siya, 1.0 is very easy na siya. So, the index of discrimination is the difference between the proportion of the upper group who got the item right and the proportion of the lower group who got the item right. This index is independent upon the difficulty of an item. So, it may reach maximum of value of 100% of the upper group and none of the lower group answer the item correctly. For its of less than or greater than 50 difficult is the index discrimination has maximum value of less than 100. So, kita as a future teacher or sa mga teacher na so, ato sa mga kaanon kong maghatag-taging ana nga situation sa ka-student na question na or malisdan ba sila or na ba nga o masabtan ra ba nila, kaya ra ba nila na kaya lisod sa kay wata kasabot nanay mag-answer lang ta. Wag gahapon, useless, wrong. So next, more sophisticated discrimination index. So, item discrimination refers to the ability of an item to differentiate among a student on the basis of how will they know the material being tested. So, various handle calculation procedure have traditionally been used to compare item response to total test score using the low scoring groups of the student. Computerized analysis provide its accurate assessment of discrimination power of items. So because they take into account the response of all the students rather than just the higher lower scoring groups. So, di ba kata as a teacher or a future teacher, so kinahanglan nato kita nga teacher halimbawa na mga activity or oral na mga or exam na so dapat ang ilang mga grades itong ginatarog compute and then para og halimbawa mo reklamo ang usa ka parents is natin mapakita nga proof sa ilaha nga ing ana mo oral na ko para way dahang reklamo ba kay usay ang uban nga mga teacher kay kung ano na lang ng grades so dapat maging kaantahan ng mas kung ano na to nga totalon ginato ang ilhang total score sa nakuha nila nga score or response all student. So ano siya scoring a group of students sa mga score nila nakuha dapat various of calculations. So, dapat ato kasi yung totalon na siya procedure yung saon pagkuha. So that's all sir. Thank you.